right away, the Germans came in, and right away they told the Jewish people that we have to put on a yellow star. And we all started sewing the yellow stars of a piece of cardboard, and you had to wear one in front and in the back, and you had to walk in the middle of the street. You couldn't walk anymore on the sidewalks. I didn't look very Jewish, and as I said, I was a tomboy, and my mother sent me here and there to some farmers, to some people that she knew to get certain things, and we went away, and when we came back, the war started.
Can you tell us where you went?
I went to my mother must have sent me someplace to get something, and I took off the yellow star and I went on the sidewalk. And when I came back, it was a Sunday, my father was gone. Thursday they were in, and by Sunday my father was gone. They arrested my father. My father, the rabbi, we had a Rabbi Box, the Nachamovsky, and they took some prominent Jews, and they arrested them, and they were in jail. And my mother tried to find out where they are, what happened, but she wasn't very successful. And in the meantime, a German came to live in our house, in the same room where the Russians were, and he looked like Hitler. So everybody used to say that Hitler lives by the Matuzons. And he said that he will try to find out where my father is and maybe get him out. We found out that Antonas, this was our super, told when the Germans came around where the Jews lived and in what apartments, which in our place, all of them were Jewish. But somehow or other, only my father was arrested at the time. And we never saw my father again. Then the ghetto formed. The ghetto started forming. What they did is they took part of the town, which was like the poorest part of town, and they enclosed it, and this was called the ghetto. Most of the houses in that part of town had no bathrooms. They only had outhouses. And there were shacks. They were really just shacks. Somehow or other, my mother, we were waiting, because my mother was waiting for my father to return. And most people were busy running to get a room where to stay, and my mother didn't. That's why I said that my mother was not very, I think, realistic or really like a go-getter. And we were just waiting, and there was another couple, my aunt's sister, my aunt that was sent out to Siberia, her sister was in our town with her parents, and they were already in the ghetto, and my mother was just waiting. She was waiting for my father to return. And in the meantime, the ghetto closed because they had enough people. There were no more places. And whoever was left was sent to the synagogue. And they are fate from the synagogue. Some were taken out and burned, some were shot. But in our case, if somebody took you into the ghetto, you could still get in there. So my sister's friend, whose father was the head of the ghetto, his name was Beralovich, she said that they'll take us in, and they gave us one bed for the three of us. Came to one spot, and they said that we are 26 miles from our destination. We were very, very hungry. So I said to my mother, also, my principal's daughter froze to death on the march. So another girl and I moved her off the road, so we were given a piece of bread for that. The one I mentioned, Silberstein. And then, so I told my mother, I said, give me the diamond ring, I'm gonna get us bread. We were somehow or other always at the end. We were always beaten because we didn't have the strength to walk. And so my mother gave me the diamond ring, and she said, any other time. She says, I wouldn't do this. She says, but may God be with you. I didn't think how I'll get back or how I'll do it. I'll do it. And I eased out of the line. We were in a town called Golomka, which I found out later. And I eased out of the line. There was a guy, we used to call him the Eye because he was cross-eyed. I eased out, and I went into a barn. I went into the barn, and a fellow came in, and I said to him, I spoke German, of course. I said, here's a diamond ring, bring me a bread. He said, okay. He went out, and he came back with the police. I was in a police station. So they said, what are you doing? I said, I came for bread. So they said, where are you from? I said, from the Colonna. Colonna is like a group. And you could see because they were right there. It was just a few, seconds. So they said, do you know what you're doing? You are dirtying our German, you are dirtying our German-free town, our unified town. So they started.
Excuse me, who are the colony?
The Colonna is a group. It's in Jewish, Colonna.
So you admitted that you were part of that group?
I didn't have to admit. The way I looked, they knew where I came from. So they said, you're dirtying. So they started chasing me towards the group. And the only thing I was thinking, I didn't care if they kill me, but I said I didn't want my mother should see me being killed. I mean, I just left. So I started running, and I really don't know. I mean, today, hindsight, I think my father must have carried me. My feet were all swollen, and I was hungry, and I ran so fast, and before I knew, there was a posse, and they were chasing me with guns, with pitchforks, and I was running, and on the side of the road, people used to watch the marches, and there were people in uniforms, so I separated them to the right of me. I separated them, and I went behind them, and I figured they'll kill me, but at least let it be behind so my mother wouldn't see it. So I ran behind, and I ran into another barn, and I lay down in a trough. And I was there, and all this time, and I used to say to my mother, let's run, let's run. And my mother had one saying. She used to say, mein Kind, whatever will happen with all the Jews will happen with us too. There is no way out. And this is when I saw, she was a fatalist, and I saw the merit to what she said. But I ran into the barn, I lay in the trough. I don't know how long I was there. Must have been hours. They never found me. And then, maybe it was a couple of hours. And then somebody came in, I assumed he was Polish, and I said to the man, I said, I'm here, I spoke German, and I said, they must be looking for me. He said, no, they gave up the search, they left. I said, are you Polish? He says, no, I'm British. Stan said that in the morning the decisions will be made what to do with me and how to save me. He definitely felt that he wanted to do something about it. And the girls were left. That was at night, and somehow or other, lying in that trough, that I remember very well, I was thinking that how wise my mother was when she said, what happened with all the Jews will happen with us too. I felt so alone. I felt like alone in the whole world. And I felt lonesome. Of course, I had eaten. I wasn't that hungry anymore. And I must have dozed off. I even remember how I was sitting up in the trough, like leaning against the wall, and the cow was nibbling me. And all of a sudden, I hear somebody coming into the barn and yelling, "Zum Donnerwetter noch einmal, wo ist die Lampe, wo ist die Lampe?" And she was feeling the lamp was standing, it was supposed to be just like to the right of me, and she couldn't find the lamp, and she started feeling, and she touched my clog, and she shook my foot, and she said, "Who's there? Who's there?" Of course, in German. And at this point, I didn't answer, I didn't breathe, I don't even think I was alive. And I stayed, and then she left. And hindsight, I think at that point I had given up, because hadn't I would have really gotten out of the trough and run out of the barn to be outside, because common sense would dictate that she would come back with a light to see who is in the barn. And I didn't do anything. This is one time I think I gave up. But I was very lucky. She never returned. She never returned. And in the morning when Stan came, Zoya said that the Russian people don't want any part of a Jewish girl. And Stan said, he discussed it, there are 10 men, and they all decided that they are going to save me and help me, and they'll make a room. They lived in a barn, and above the barn was straw and horses. It was a police station. In the little towns in Germany, you have a police station in the beginning of town.
Was this Germany or Poland?
Gorszkolemko, I think it's Poland that Germany took over. And it was not far from Danzig. It was like 20 kilometers from Danzig. And and the town name was Gorszkolemko. And he said that they lived they were locked in. In the morning, they let them out to work, and at night they came, they locked them back in. But above them, there is a barn where they had straw and horses, and there's a police station outside. But in the straw, they're gonna make a hole. And in the hole, they will lower me down, and there's a chimney there, and the chimney will keep me warm. And in the morning, they come in to hang out their laundry, so they'll bring me food. And at night, when they come to pick up the laundry, they will be able to bring me food again.